basically the modern vampire tale. Anne Rice is an author who launched 1,000 Gothic cosplayers over the past 50 years. Interview with a Vampire is probably her best known. They made a movie out of it. Made a movie out of a few of her books. Queen of the Damned had Aaliyah in it. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I remember my girlfriend at the time, this would have been 30 years ago, Anne Rice had put out a book called The Tale of the Body Thief. And my girlfriend at the time was a huge, huge Anne Rice fan. And Anne Rice in Chicago. Anne Rice was doing a signing at a bookstore. And my girlfriend had to work. And I was off that day. And she said, would you please get in line and have Anne Rice sign my book? And I said, sure. I wanted to be a good boyfriend. And I stood in line for 5 hours. And I was in line with people who were very, very serious about Anne Rice. So I looked really out of place. Like, to a person, the people in this line, black, not black people.
Right.
No, trust me, all white. Clad in black, pale, yes. People who very, very much wanted to be children of the night. The whole bit. And she couldn't have been lovelier, you know. When I finally got up there, and it was only a couple of weeks later that very same girlfriend dumped my ass. But listen, I did what I could do in 1992.
Was she a big ditty goth girl?
Anne Rice?
No, your ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, that was kind of her. Yeah, it was her. Yeah. You wouldn't necessarily know it to look at her, but...
Sneaky Bigs.
I'm saying? What?
Well, there's a whole genre of girlfriend, the big booby goth girl, but I can't say the...
It's called what?
Big titty goth girl? You never heard that?
I have not, no. So Anne Rice died at 80 years old. The Interview with the Vampire was 1976. She had a stroke. She sold more than 150 million books. And I remember there were comic book versions, there were manga versions of her books, there were films. She did a 13-book series called The Vampire Chronicles. Anything vampire-related. People loved Anne Rice, boy. And she was 80 years old. But she was kind of cute in a weird way, too. Like, she kind of had that jet black bob for a long time before she let it go gray. And... You know, so I'm sure that the wannabe vampire community is mourning the loss of Anne Rice. I don't know who takes up that mantle.
Does it go to the Twilight lady?
Stephanie, what's her name?
Myers?
I don't know. Maybe. That might be more... I always thought Anne Rice, that was kind of more... traditional, kind of Southern Gothic. Anne Rice was more of like a True Bloody type of, people who dug True Blood.
Who was that author?
Oh, God, I don't know. I only saw a couple episodes of that.
But that was a book
TV
first.
show.
I didn't like it either. All it was just vampires banging. Like, there was literally no storyline.
Yeah, but every vampire story is just mired in sex. I mean, that's the allure of the vampires. They live forever, and you look at someone and they want to have sex with you. Like, no wonder that's an attractive mythology,
But it was like Twilight had a storyline, and you could tell it wasn't.
I never saw those either.
It wasn't about the sex.
No, True Blood had storylines. There were different enemies that they had to take care of each season. I watched everything until like the last. Like, I haven't watched the final episode of True Blood. That's the only one I didn't see.
I bought into the hype when it was like real popular, and I bought like the DVD set. This is how long ago it was, because people were still buying DVDs then, and I bought it at Best Buy, and I watched like. I think like the first season, I was like, this sucks. And I gave it to my cousin, and I never paid attention to it since.
Well, I thought Stephanie Meyer was the girl who wrote the Twilight series, and I always thought she was kind of an outlier because when you would see the other women who authored these kinds of books, they looked very much like pent-up middle-aged moms, who were writing sexy vampire books. And some, True Blood, Charlene Harris is the woman who wrote those. And
right.
She's very much like somebody that would look like, your friend's aunt wrote a bunch of books. But if they hit and you get rich. So I don't know that there's any heiress apparent to Anne Rice, but I'm sure there are plenty of people who are mourning Anne Rice. And then Michael Nesmith died. There's only one monkey left. Mike Nesmith is the third of the 4 monkeys to die. First person I texted was Corey Roddick. My wife said the exact same thing. She goes, you better see if Corey's okay. Because, of course, Corey Roddick...
huge Monkees fan.
That is understating it.
Yeah.
There is no way to overstate how big of a Monkees fan Corey Roddick is. Now, he also knows how old these guys are, and so I don't think it was any shock. But Mike Nesmith arguably was the guy in the Monkees who had other things going on. He was a guy who, his mom invented liquid paper.
Oh.
Mike Nesmith was the guy who was probably, they wanted him to create MTV. He had basically come up with one of the first channels for music videos with his production company. He won the first ever Grammy for Video of the Year in 1981. And he would tell the story on talk shows about how his mother invented liquid paper.
Liquid paper.
Liquid paper.
She sure did. My mother invented liquid paper, rest her soul. She started it off. She had this idea in Texas, single woman. She had a vision. She had a lot of help, had some help with some capable execs, but she built it into a big multi-million-dollar international corporation and saved the life of a lot of secretaries.
Did she do a lot of typing herself? I guess so, obviously.
Yeah, but I think basically it came from the fact she was a commercial artist.
So Mickey Dolenz died at 78. Sorry, not Mickey Dolenz, Mike Nesmith. Mickey Dolenz is the last remaining monkey. He was the drummer. And he and Nesmith just played a show because these guys would still go out.
Yeah.
So when Davy Jones died, there were still the 3 of them. There's Peter Tork. It was Mickey. You go, hey, we're 3/4 of the Monkees or whatever. And then Tork dies a few years ago. And so Nesmith and Dolenz go out and they go, hey, we're 2 monkeys. And I'm Mickey Dolenz going to be, hey, I'm a monkey. I don't know how this is going to work. It's got to be Mickey Dolenz and friends do the hits of the Monkees. But Michael Nesmith passed away in his home. They said of natural causes. He had done a show a couple of weeks ago, as a matter of fact. But yeah, the CEO of this company, of iHeartMedia, is a guy named Bob Pittman, who is a rarity among CEOs in that he is a genuine entrepreneur. There are a lot of guys who are just businessmen and bean counters and whatever, but Bob Pittman is the guy who created MTV. And he was the guy, they went to Mike Nesmith a long, long time ago. It was like, hey, we like this video channel idea that you've got, and we'd like to do something with it. And Mike Nesmith goes, I got other things going on. He did a show called Pop Clips that ironically aired on Nickelodeon in the late 70s. And it was like a 15-minute thing, like an interstitial that they would run in between shows in the earliest days of Nickelodeon. And they liked what it looked like. And they said, hey, we're talking about this thing, this music television, and we'd like you to help us create it. And he goes, I can't, I got these other things going on or whatever. So he's kind of credited with that format. Bob Pittman was the guy that would eventually create the original MTV format. He was the CEO of MTV Networks for a long time.
I think I saw a post on social media like Kurt Loder just turned 78 or something.
Kurt Loder was 78 in the early days of it. Kurt Loder was the oldest guy on MTV.
He always was, but I mean,
because he was like old. Yeah, he's very old. Yeah, all those early MTV people, obviously.
Getting up there.
But Kurt Loder was the guy that was supposed to give MTV its gravitas.
Well, MTV News, yeah. I mean,
he was a Rolling Stone columnist, and he, So, I mean, he was probably 40 when MTV started, right? Or late 30s.
Yeah.
But they had all those early people. Alan Hunter, J.J. Jackson is dead. Martha Quinn is still around. Nina Blackwood. And those are just the VJs. But they had a lot of people associated when MTV really, really blew up.
I wonder if Bob Pittman looks at it now and it's just ridiculousness, marathons all the time. He's like, my baby. What have you done to my baby?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. No, but Pittman is a guy who, I've worked on and off for this company in its various incarnations for a long time. And we've had a lot of people running this company along the way that were awful, awful people. awful to work for, did not care anything that was going on other than, they were just bean counters. And so when Pittman comes around, a lot of people on the talent side and the creative side were really able to kind of breathe a sigh of relief. The company obviously has not been without its problems, very public problems. But Bob Pittman is a guy who has really been able to kind of...
He understands the creative side,
yes,
too.
very much so, which is, it's a rarity. But he ran like Six Flags back in the day, and he ran AOL, and he ran, a bunch of different kind of... He's the guy that's largely credited with creating MTV. So he knows how those things lay out. But that's where the Mike Nesmith thing intersects. And then a dude who was on the radio outside of Boston, they found him shot in the head in his home.
Jesus.
I've never heard of this guy before, but apparently he was like a popular local dude. He's just, he's just a townie who, born and raised there, and he was on the radio, and everybody knew him, and everybody liked him. Young guy, he's 50. Somebody went by, and he was on his kitchen floor, having been shot in the head.
And that's it? That's all they don't know who did it?
They don't know who did it. They didn't find a weapon at the scene. So they're like, well, it's not a suicide because of the way he was shot. It's clearly a homicide. And we didn't find the murder weapon at the scene. His roommate had checked in on him. So, this wasn't a guy who was getting rich, broadcasting.
50 years old and a roommate.
50, living in Cape Cod with a roommate. Yeah. But it was big news in that part of the country, in Massachusetts and beyond, because people knew who he was.
Well known in this community. Tonight, many are in total disbelief to learn he was killed. Longtime friends dropping off flowers to Oakview Terrace Thursday night, holding back tears.
He was just so kind. I'm sorry. He was just a kind heart. He was so nice to everybody.
Investigators identifying 50-year-old Eric Christensen, a Cape Cod local and well-known radio employee, as the man who was killed inside of his home.
I'm shocked. Everybody's shocked.
According to the Cape Cod Islands District Attorney's Office, Christensen was shot to death in his kitchen, a bullet hole seen through his back window.
The police have been looking for the gun last night and all today.
Several neighbors watching.
And the roommate looks like an 80-year-old guy. I mean, again, this is just a guy who was on the air there, and, he was known in the air as Eric the Prozac, which I don't... I'd love
Catchy.
to know. I'd love to know what the story is on that. But he worked for a number of radio stations in this particular company out in the Cape Cod, Hyannis Pod area, Massachusetts.
I wonder if Bob Marley knows him.
Maybe he's from Maine, though, right?
Yeah.
Farther up the.
As law
But he's just big in
enforcement
that whole
rushed
area.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I
the
guess
home
you're right.
around 6 o'clock Wednesday night. Some hearing the gunshots.
We were actually doing the dishes at the moment in the kitchen, the side of the house that's actually facing that house. So we heard it loud and clear.
Elizabeth Pineda lives in a separate neighborhood behind Christensen's house through the woods. She says she believes the shooter cut through her backyard area to get in and out undetected. Neighbors at the front of the house thinking the same, saying they didn't see anything suspicious on their side.
We did not see a vehicle come in or out in that time frame.
Christensen lived at the home with one roommate who he rented a room to. NBC 10 spoke to the man briefly off camera, and he told us he was very upset after just losing a friend.
It's very sad. No matter who you are, you don't
Well, that's not the roommate. But so they find this guy shot in the head in his kitchen.
Roommate's got to be the number one suspect, though, right?
No, they talked to the roommate. And I don't think
you
that they
talk
had
to him. He's got to, he's. Who else is going to do
shifty
it?
eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know. The guy said he went home. Wait a
Likely
second.
story.
That's exactly what the guy would say.
Yeah.
Eric Christensen,
8-year-old
50.
guy. What are you out doing?
He worked for all the stations in this particular cluster. He worked for Pixie 103. He worked for all of them. In Oakview Terrace. It took him to Cape Cod Hospital, where he died on arrival. So, yeah. So they're another one of our brothers in broadcasting has been felled by who knows what. This could have been some kind of deal gone wrong. This could have been a disgruntled prize winner.
Ooh, yeah.
I certainly hate to point the finger at our customers, but who knows? It's being investigated as a homicide by Barnstable Police, and the Massachusetts Stadies are in on it as well. Trying to figure out what happened. But he was a guy, every radio market has got these kinds of guys who are, they just love being around and being behind a microphone. And they're in their hometown. They love it. And it didn't end so well for this guy. For Eric the Prozac was how he was. And again, to me, this is the Prozac with a K. Yeah. To me, this is the biggest question mark in this story, is how he got that name. Prozak. Eric the Prozac. Doesn't Prozac, what does that do? Level your mood, put you to sleep? What's it do?
I think so.
You don't want to name yourself after something that puts people to sleep.
I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a sleeping pill, but I think it's a mood stabilizer.
He's a mood stabilizer.
Yeah, he'll stabilize your mood.
And he was just kind of a jack of all trades. He was on the air. He would do events. He worked for any of the stations in their cluster. He worked for Pixie 103, Y101, Oldies Coffee FM, and Classic Hits Frank 93.5. This is one of these guys. They're like, hey, Christmas Eve. Can you work, Eric? Yes, I can. He's a yes, I can guy. And so it's a loss not only for the community, but it's a loss for this cluster of radio stations.
Yeah, but a boon for true crime podcasts, because now they can make a whole series about the ongoing investigation. Yeah. Who on this show,
it's a little in-house.
We'll leave Mary out of it today because she's not here, is most likely to get murdered.
Jesus Christ. You find a point on it. Who's most likely?
You with your damn coughing. COVID's going to murder you.
Well, that's not murder.
He doesn't have COVID.
I don't have COVID.
As he established, he has a sinus infection.
I was swabbing my nostrils all weekend, buddy.
Okay, well.
Is that what the kids are calling it?
Yeah, well, I was doing I didn't want, I was performing at Hilarity, so I bought like 3 or 4, and they come in. So I was testing myself every day before I would go out.
Move, bitch.
With the home
you got
tests.
Coronavirus. Ooh, you got coronavirus. We ain't finna do with this coronavirus. I ain't finna take a trip with this coronavirus. Move, bitch. You got
I mean, we've already, just a callback to not long ago, we were talking about the risky behaviors that Poundcake has been known to undertake.
But I survived that, and I haven't
He did survive it, accidentally survived all that.
Right, so, but
I was trying to
he's
survive.
past the risky part of his life, so I feel like...
You're never past the risky part of your life. You could walk out the door, you could get hit by a bus tomorrow thing is
true.
We're
talking about murder.
Alan,
we're not
I feel like
talking
you're more
about
controversial than all of us.
Murder. What's that?
You're more controversial than all of us.
Nevertheless.
Someone would have like a vendetta against you.
A vendetta? I mean, I don't know who that would be.
I don't know either, but they're more like, because I don't hurt anybody. Well, a wife, I feel like I would get murdered by someone's wife.
By some quote-unquote straight dude's wife.
Yeah.
Either the husband would kill me to shut me up, or the wife would kill me out of revenge.
Yeah.
I still F your man.
And your dad.
And it was good. Had the taste.
Yeah.
Right in the kitchen, right?
They're not going to shoot you, though. They're going to poison you. That's the way women do it.
No, it would be like
They're going to make you an antifreeze smoothie.
It would be a stabbing.
They're stabbing you.
They would probably want to make it hurt. Jab and twist.
Intimate way to kill someone, right? Yeah, jab and twist. All right, well, I hope that's not how it goes down.
I hope I don't get murdered, but I'm just saying,
I think you might be right, though. I think that puts you in the number one spot.
Because men, hey, I molest children. All right, shut up.
They like to keep their secrets.
Yeah, I was like, men, they're like, they're cool as long as no one finds out. But if I say too much,
yeah, that's right. You know where the bodies are buried. You know where all the bones are buried.
I don't have to look too far.
What kind of women might want to kill Poundcake?
Big ones, small ones, skinny ones, tall ones, brown ones, black ones, round ones, fat ones.
Yeah, that's right. All kinds of wives with knives out for young Cody Brown. Hey, the Ouija board didn't tell us how, just told us when.
It said Little Debbie. Never know.
Hey!
That's right.
Could be a little lady named Debbie.
I am so lovable. People would miss me so much when I'm gone.
No one saying
Give us
otherwise.
A chance to find out.
No one saying otherwise.
Let me watch you poop.
I've got to take a break. On that morbid note, I'll have tickets for you. Want to check out the Cleveland Charge? They're playing. You want to check out your